It's getting closer and closer to the season, so it's time to give you some updated running back rankings for the fantasy football season. Do us a favor, go ahead and drop a like if you want to show some love to the channel.
Come on.
Subscribe if you like fantasy football, because we'll be pumping it out all season long. Thank you for your support so far this year. And why don't you go ahead and comment down below, who's your biggest riser in this offseason for your running back rankings? I'm curious what name is going to pop up in the comments there. Who are you more confident about today than you were 4 or 5 months ago? So we have 6 tiers for you guys to discuss today. Let's get straight to it. Badake, who do you have here in tier 6 then?
All right, tier 6. Let's start off with Dalvin. Let's have a conversation about Dalvin here. Dalvin Cook, obviously still not on the team, but once and if he gets onto a team, in my opinion, he will be in the top 30 conversation easily. Hypothetically, that's the Dolphins. Hypothetically, that's the Patriots, Chiefs. Whatever the case may be, he is going to get the opportunity that we hope and expect that someone like Dalvin Cook, who in my opinion still has a little bit of juice left in him, can get once he gets onto a team and gets picked up by a team. So right now, Dalvin Cook here in my tier 6.
I'll tell you what, he is really tough to value right now in rankings. Rankings are fluid. They will change when we find out where he's going to land. Right now, we don't know. But if he lands with the Dolphins or if he lands with the Patriots, he will be ranked drastically different for me with those 2 landing spots. The Dolphins, clearly, we would expect him to be the number 1 running back there, and then Devon Achane will probably have a lot of work through the air. But if he lands with the Patriots, it's much more difficult to know how he and Ramondre Stevenson operate together. So yeah, he's a very difficult name to kind of digest through rankings right now. I would have 2 people ahead of him, which I'll just or I would have him ahead of 2 people.
Right.
One being Isaiah Pacheco, the other being his brother James Cook, which I think we will disagree on. But if Dalvin signs, let's say with the Jets or with the Dolphins, give me Dalvin Cook over James Cook in fantasy this year. Just quickly on Pacheco, he is the last player ranked for me. I think he's my RB 30 or something. I know a lot of people are much higher on Isaiah Pacheco, and that's fine. But to me, I think he's a very replaceable running back. I think Deneric Prince, the rookie, undrafted rookie that they have in camp right now, if Pacheco went down, he could play that same role for them. Might be a little bit of a different player, but they're both angry downhill runners with not much vision. And there's also going to be a Jet McKinnon, a Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who are involved in the passing game. So there's a very limited PPR upside, in my opinion. And we're already talking about a team in the Kansas City Chiefs who don't rely on the run game like that. So it's Patrick Mahomes. He runs the show. It's just not going to be consistent enough for me to rank Pacheco higher than some of these other guys. But James Cook, I also have in this tier. Are these fighting words? Like, how do you feel about this? Are I know you're a big James Cook guy, but
yeah, I am a big James Cook guy. It's not a fighting words. Honestly, I only have him right ahead of his brother. I am still I am higher. I'm higher than James Cook right now. Purely, obviously, if Dalvin Cook does go to a team like Zach said, Jets, Patriots, Dolphins, 100% he's going to go over James Cook, Dalvin will. But right now, James Cook, I see the pathway. I do have him ahead of, obviously, Isaiah Pacheco, and then we can have other conversations with other people. But I see a phenomenal pathway for James Cook here, and I think it's a good, mid-round value running back that you can get as, in my opinion, a solid RB2.
All right, so the other running back that I would have in this tier, which we just found out finally, the suspension for him, is Alvin Kamara. Now, I don't know really where you stand here, but we know he's going to miss 3 games?
3 games. Yes, 3 games.
So he's going to miss 3 games for sure. The reason that I am not someone who's like, oh my God, Alvin Kamara, like, look, depending on where you get him in ADP, I'm fine with it. If he ends up being the RB 28 off the board, fair enough, like, take your shot. But to me, Alvin Kamara's situation is very different. If you're drafting him, this is just my perspective. If you're drafting him expecting to get like 2021 Alvin Kamara, 2020 Alvin Kamara when he comes back from that suspension, I think you're a little bit misguided because the situation is very different. We're talking about the same coaching staff, the same GM who were trying to trade him last year. No one would agree to a trade because obviously the looming suspension.
Yeah.
We're talking about a player in Alvin Kamara who's a year older, who in almost every metric, efficiency-wise, he was down career lows last year compared to what he's ever had. And we're talking about the most competition he's ever seen in his backfield with rookie Kendre Miller, who I think could lead the backfield if Kamara was traded. and Jamal Williams, who led the NFL in rushing touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So if you anticipate Alvin Kamara having any of those 6 rushing touchdown games when he's back, Jamal Williams is going to be used heavily on the goal line and in short yardage situations. So I do think Kamara becomes a good pick depending on, where you're taking him. I'm not taking him top 20, but I am someone who is a little bit more concerned that he's older. The efficiency isn't what it used to be. It's the same coaching staff who mismanaged him all last year. Numbers were down, and there's more competition. So I would put him here in tier 6, but I'm not sure if you would as well.
No, look, he is in my tier 6. One thing I would say, and I have been advocating for Alvin Kamara this whole off season, saying that he is a phenomenal you're drafting him as your RB3. If you're drafting Alvin Kamara as your RB1 or RB2, I think that's where you go wrong. Hypothetically, you get Austin Eckler and a Ramondre Stevenson on the turn, right? Alvin Kamara being drafted as your RB3, I think boosts your ceiling significantly higher as a team, as an individual team for you, because Alvin Kamara has that top 5, top 8 running back finishing, especially in the air. Jamal Williams, yes, he knows how to catch balls, but I think, in my opinion, the way I see this offense, if Kamara is going to lose efficiency on the ground, surely that's getting pumped up in the air. Hopefully, I guess once again, I'm big hypothetical there. But what we do know is that Alvin Kamara has always been a top 5 running back finish in targets alone, and I don't think that's going to change. So if you want those PPR opportunities, then I think Alvin Kamara is a good RB3 specifically. Sure. RB3 specifically. So don't go too crazy drafting him and be like, I can get Alvin Kamara as my RB2. I think that's where you can go wrong.
Yeah, and I definitely hear you. Like, he could end up being a very good pick, but man, it's really concerning to me that it's the same coaching staff that was not using him properly last year. Maybe because they have more bodies, they use him more in a pass catching role. I'm not sure, but maybe. That's all the people in my tier 6. Agreed. I don't know if you have anyone else.
No, that's all I have.
All right. Before we head into tier number 5, just want to let you guys know that our rankings will constantly be changing and updating throughout the season. If you want some consistent rankings, if you want to unlock the fantasy hotline, which is a direct DM to us for advice. Let's say you have a trade that hits your inbox, you want some advice on it, you want to know who to pick up on the waiver wire, etc. You have a DM to us through the fantasy hotline. Everyone who signs up to the Flock Fantasy website with our promo code LAND, that gets you 30% off. And if you choose the Mother Flocker tier, you'll get all those benefits and more. So let's head into this tier number 5 here, where I have 4 running backs. One of those being Rachaad White, who I'm very excited about. Yep. I've been kind of pumping Rachaad White throughout the offseason on our Dynasty channel. I think he's been a fantastic buy in Dynasty. Now, look, I've seen some ADPs that are kind of crazy. I mean, I think ESPN has him as like a 5th round pick.
Wait, what?
In a 12-man league. That's way too high. And
that's
you
wild.
And I, we don't see him going in the 5th round of sleeper ADP. Like, we don't see that happening. So, just to be very clear, he's not worthy of a 5th round pick, but there's no competition really behind him. He's a great pass catcher. We're doing PPR rankings. He should see 50 to 60, maybe 65 targets this year. And Baker Mayfield, if he is going to be the starter, there is a history of success with him dumping the ball to his running backs.
Yeah.
Big fan of Rachaad White this year. If you can be like, let's say you start anchor RB, and then Rachaad White ends up being like your 7th round pick as your RB2. I really love those kind of starts, those kind of teams. I also have Dameon Pierce here. I'm not sure where you have him. I know you're a bigger fan of Dameon Pierce than myself, but I would have him here in this tier 5. I think he and Rachaad White, Dameon Pierce is getting more love, but I think Dameon Pierce has more competition. I think Devin Singletary is more competition than Keyshawn Vaughn for opportunities. And I think they're more evenly valued than a lot of people would say. And the other 2 guys I would have here is DeAndre Swift and David Montgomery. I'm not sure how you feel about that.
So we do see this differently.
Okay.
The other player that I have outside of Dameon Pierce that's in this tier for me is Javonte Williams. Now, the reason I'm not sure where you have him. The reason why I have him here, and I think it's a little bit bold for me to have him here coming off an ACL tear and the history that we've seen with the ACLs, but where Javonte Williams currently getting drafted right now brings a really good value especially for somebody that is trending in the right direction, is going to get preseason snaps, is going to, according to reports, is going to be ready for week 1. And that is truly is the case.
Yeah.
I don't see his ceiling as a top 15, top 15, top wide receiver. I feel more comfortable drafting him. Yeah, running back, excuse me. I feel more comfortable drafting him around this area where I say, okay, is it DeAndre Swift that's probably going to miss 4 to 5 games, or Javonte Williams that is probably going to get his legs back into the second half of the season, or David Montgomery that is going to be splitting time with Jahmyr Gibbs? That's kind of where I'm at right now. I have Dameon Pierce 1 tier higher. I just believe in the talent. I believe in his workload. Yeah, Devin Singletary may be getting opportunities in the air, but a lot of Dameon Pierce's opportunities came on the ground and goal line work potentially. And I think that's going to continue coming in, especially with CJ Stroud. So right now, this is where I have Javonte Williams.
Yeah. Okay, couple things. I would say for me in a PPR league, the work through the air is much more important than the work on the ground, especially on an offense that we don't even know how good it's going to be. So I can respect that you have Dameon Pierce there in tier 4, but I mean, I don't think he's in a tier, complete different tier to Swift or Montgomery or Rashad. But I mean, we'll talk about that in a second. Maybe we just agree to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
I would go as far to say I don't think you're as bullish on Javonte as you need to be. So I'm even higher than you. Like, the more I assess the situation, and I'm bringing out a video on this channel about Javonte Williams, one of these running backs that I just cannot stop drafting, I have him firmly in my tier 4, and I have him ahead of a lot of names that a lot of people like, which we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah.
But to me, Javonte Williams, I was originally concerned about drafting him because I was thinking about J.K. Dobbins last year. I was thinking about how ugly that situation was, how he wanted to play. The team was on a different page. How, he said he was going to play in preseason. They didn't play him in preseason. Injuries, had to get it, his knee cleaned out. This is 2 night and day different situations, though, because Javonte's been cleared in contact drills already. He's participating. He will play in preseason. The team is backing his claims that he'll be good to go week 1. And he is joining a team led by Sean Payton. Sean Payton, in the last 5 years as a head coach for the New Orleans Saints, every year he was top 6 in team targets to the running back position. So to me, I am 100,000% in on Javonte Williams this year. I understand the concern around his knee, but when we think he's ready right now. He's going to be ready week 1. He's the guy there. Currently, Underdog has him ranked as a RB26. I am 6 spots higher. He's my RB20, and I could see that getting even higher heading into the year. I'll say this. If he stays at RB26 throughout the preseason, he will be a my guy this year. Yeah. He 100% will be a my guy. I am all in on his usage in that Denver Broncos offense. So I'm firmly in the tier 4 with him myself.
And I think, so that means you have him in because you said you have 6 places higher. That means you have him as top 20 RB.
I do. He's my RB20.
For me, I think I can't have him there. I think once we get past, look, my biggest concern is the knee. I think that's everyone's concern.
Yeah.
And everything that you were saying about Javonte is kind of the same thing that was happening with Saquon. The only thing that the difference with Saquon is the head coaching staff, and he didn't play preseason. The team backed him up. He was on the roll. He got cleared for contact, and Saquon that year finished as the RB30 after coming off his ACL tear.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily sure if I believe in the return that Javonte will bring drafting him at the RB20, but drafting him as the RB 25, 24, 26, around there, I feel a lot more comfortable. But look, if he's playing preseason and if he's backing it up, maybe I have to readjust my rankings because this is fluid, right? I mean, we have 4 more weeks as we get closer to the season. So,
and our rankings constantly update over on the Flock site, along with a bunch of articles, bunch of great content. Use our code. There's a pinned comment down below. But, something that you said is a point that I want to push home. He is playing in preseason games.
Yeah.
And the reason that is so important is because it not only confirms his claim as a player, I'm ready to go. I'm good. I'm ready to go right now. It also confirms, because he doesn't have control if he plays in preseason, it 100% confirms the coaching staff and he are aligned. He is ready to go. Otherwise, there's not a single reason you put him out there for preseason games. right?
Yeah.
So
agreed.
to me, it shows ultimate confidence that he is the guy. He will be ready. I mean, you look at his last year, he was healthy, was his rookie season. He was second in missed tackles forced. He was an absolute monster, always gaining more yards with every touch. Only Jonathan Taylor had more missed tackles forced, and that was his like pop-off year. But Jonathan Taylor had 129 more carries. Javonte forced a missed tackle on 31% of his carries last time he was healthy. JT in that same year on just under 20%. The dude was a monster, absolute beast, and I think he's going to step back into that role under Sean Payton, who, like I said, is he kind of led the way in revolutionizing the way that your running back is used through the air those last 5 years. But yeah, I'm going to strongly advocate for him in tier 4, and I think you're going to do the same for Dameon Pierce.
Yeah,
so maybe we can meet in the middle there.
We'll meet in the middle there for sure.
Okay, yeah. Like I said, I mean, I guess you can call me a Dameon Pierce hater. Like whatever, maybe I am. Maybe I am. Maybe I need to acknowledge it. I don't hate the player. I just don't. I think his ADP. I just think he's overvalued. Like people view him in a different light to the likes of the Rashad Whites and the Swifts and Monties, and I don't think he is personally. Especially with Devin Singletary being there, that might be the key. Like maybe. Devin Singletary being there, I think he's more important than people realize, and we don't even know what this offense is going to look like. But I mean, to each their own,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, heading into tier 4, who you got for us?
I have Cam Akers in tier 4.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I got Cam there. I got Cam. Javonte ahead of him, but yeah, I got Cam there.
I love Cam this year coming into opportunities. I mean, second half of the season, top 5 running back, and if he can bring back that another year removed from his Achilles tear, which is also phenomenal. So I'm really leaning on this offense, especially if Cooper Kupp's going to miss some time, even though I don't hope that's the case. But if he's not trending the right way, maybe they lean towards Cam Akers a little bit more this year.
Yeah, I like Cam Akers. I would also have J.K. Dobbins in this tier. But, man, I'll tell you what. He's
trending in the wrong direction.
He's trending in a concerning way.
100%. I agree.
There's no reports, if you're a J.K. Dobbins truther, that you can really cling on to right now.
Yeah, and I love J.K. for sure. It's not looking the right way.
And if that remains the same through, like, let's say preseason week 2, I might have to drop him down a tier.
Yeah, I agree.
And start to really consider, because, man, if he's healthy and he's ready to go, he could be so damn good in that offense. But anyway, yeah, I do have Javonte Williams ahead of those two myself. But yeah, to each their own. Like I said, pick your poison. I'm curious. Maybe you don't like this. Maybe you do. Again, rankings are fluid, but I'm gonna be a little bit cautious about Ken Walker. I also have him in this tier 4. In fact, right now I'm probably taking Cam Akers over Ken Walker. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but we don't know when Ken Walker is going to be ready. No. It's the same groin injury that he dealt with last year. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Groin injuries, they only heal with time. And they are easily re-aggravated. So I'm a little bit concerned about Ken Walker, especially with Charbonnet being there. The groin injury, this is a reoccurring injury that he dealt with last year. I mean, you look, I always go back and I point to Curtis Samuel. First year he signed with Washington, signed a 3-year deal. We were really excited about it. Got a groin injury, tried to play through it, wasn't the same player. And the only thing that could help him was time. He had to sit out pretty much the rest of the season. So I don't know how serious the injury is. It's definitely concerning he's not practicing. And it's concerning that he has Charbonnet there, same draft capital, same commitment from the team, who's ready to step in if he does need to miss time. Maybe the team is cautious with him. I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting, but right now rankings are fluid and I'm concerned.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the biggest thing, I hope you haven't done your redraft leagues if you're watching this video, redraft drafts. And if you are week 1 or days before NFL kickoff and Ken Walker's not cleared, I'm not drafting him. It's tough. Unless he falls down into a good ADP and good value, then I'm happy to take him there. But you have to be cautious with him. Another guy I have in this tier, I'm not sure where you have him. I'm pretty sure you have him in this tier. That's Alexander Mattison.
Absolutely. I love Alexander Mattison this year.
I still am shaky. Maybe I am the Alexander Mattison hater. Right now, if J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Walker is all clear, I'm taking both of those guys over. Right now, I have Cam Akers 1 spot ahead of Alexander Mattison. That may sound crazy, but I still believe there's a pathway for them to bring in another running back, whoever that looks like. That can be all the way from a Lenny to all the way to a Kareem Hunt to Ezekiel Elliott. Is that sexy? Does that take away from Alexander Mattison? Probably not a 50% workload, but maybe a 30% workload. Maybe they eat into the air. I think there's a little bit of a shakiness right now from Alexander Mattison in the community standpoint. I was never as high and bold coming in with Alexander Mattison. I think maybe the community is starting to realize that potentially, but I'm not necessarily sure why. I haven't seen a clear, hey, I'm worried about Alexander Mattison because they just fell in rankings, and I'm not sure why.
Right, yeah. Dynasty, he did for sure.
Yeah, but for me, I've always been on the pathway is like, okay, if he can fall in the right place, I'm happy to take him. But right now, I feel like he's still a bit in this gray area for me where I would rather have J.K., Kenneth Walker, Cam Akers.
Well, I will advocate for the Alexander Mattison truthers out there. He's my RB19 right now. I'm very excited about him this year. Here's what I find funny. I don't know if you've said this, but I feel, it's just a feeling, I feel like every fantasy football analyst in the entire world the past 3 years have said, man, if Dalvin Cook goes down, Alexander Mattison is a league-winning running back. He is a league-winning running back. Draft him. He needs to be on your teams because he'll win leagues if Dalvin's not there. And now, this is not an injury to Dalvin. The team moved on, and they said, it's your job, Alexander, and everyone's worried. I'm like, did you not believe what you just said for 3 years in a row? But look, there's 6 games that Alexander Mattison had since 2019 being drafted without Dalvin Cook. In those 6 games, he's averaging over 20 points per game, which, a little bit unrealistic, but that's very good to see that ceiling is there. He would be on track for an entire year, around 76 targets. And that is with one of those years without Kevin O'Connell. He's even more involved in the air now. And like he's just doing very well when he's been given the opportunity to be the guy. And I'm really glad that you brought up Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette. Like, take a look at this depth chart, guys. Truly, I would encourage you, pause this video right now. Go look at the depth chart because they, as an Alexander Mattison truther, they need someone like Kene Ngankwu or Nwagwu, Ty Chandler, a 7th round pick. These are not sustainable, suitable backup running backs. They need, like, if they actually need, as someone who believes in him, they need Kareem Hunt on this team. Like, truly, like, those guys cannot.
Not one person
they cannot handle this 30% load or 35% load that your typical reliever running back is going to be given. They need a Kareem Hunt. They need a Zeke. They need someone who can play that, second fiddle to Alexander Mattison. So, and the last thing I'll say is I saw an interview with Tom Pelissero of NFL, and he asked him, what do you want to say to people in fantasy football? Alexander Mattison said, if you want to win fantasy football, then pick me. I'm your guy, which, it's simple, but I love that he has the confidence and he acknowledges the fantasy community. But anyway, look, I think in this system with Kevin O'Connell, we could see Mattison turn into a monster. Do I think he's going to be top 5? No, but I have him ranked inside my top 20. I mean, there's very realistic possibility. Being in a team that passes the ball more than almost any other team in the NFL, they were 3rd in pass attempts last year. And a team that targets the running back position top half of the NFL, we could see Alexander Mattison with, 76, 75 targets on the year, which could absolutely skyrocket his value. I understand people are concerned because they think that Dwayne McBride's going to be a thing year 1. That's a lot of the dynasty community creeping into redraft.
Yeah.
We should have no expectations for a 7th round pick. Maybe he doesn't. I'm wrong, but
we said that with Pacheco.
and that's completely fair. That is definitely completely fair. But I don't think that they had an Alexander Mattison waiting. Like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we've been talking about him not worthy of being a starting running back for quite some time. But anyway, I'll pump the drum beat for Alexander Mattison if I need to.
Yeah. My next running back here, not sure if it continues for you, but I do have Miles Sanders here as well.
Okay. Miles Sanders is pretty firmly in my tier 3, so I'd be happy to talk about that in a second. But tell me about him.
No, I like Miles Sanders. I'm happy to advocate for him in tier 3. I haven't haven't gotten to that standpoint yet. Going back with his running back coach coming from his rookie year, where he was getting 70+ targets, or I think it was 50+ targets, 60+ targets in his rookie year, going back already wanting to get that workload, knowing that this offense is going to be leaning on the running back position, obviously with Bryce Young. I think Miles Sanders is going to have a phenomenal opportunity, and he's now on a team that is no longer targeting the running back position on the lower half of the NFL. Now he's going to a team who was literally peppering CMC for the past 4 or 5 years on this team, and now stepping in. And we saw the second half of the season where when CMC did leave, you saw Deontay Foreman and everyone did step up there. But Miles Sanders is a phenomenal pick coming in my opinion, into 2023. And I think he's a league winner. I brought him as a league winner, and I think he is a league winner.
Well, yeah, you got to meet me in tier 3 then. Come on.
Yeah, I'm talking it up. Yeah, I see you in tier 3. I'll move him to tier 3. I'm happy to have him there. I don't know why I don't actually.
Yeah, just to advocate a little bit more for Miles Sanders, because I think he to me is one of the best picks in fantasy right now.
Yeah.
Him and Alexander Madison, like, you get these guys in the 5th round as your 5th player. I mean, I like this. Your upside is just untapped with those two guys. The only thing that worked last year for the Panthers was the run game. That was the only thing that worked. Yeah. You had Ike Ekwonu, Taylor Motton, who were leading the way as tackles. They were top 12 in rushing attempts per game and top 10 in rushing yards per game. Now you add, like you said, a rookie quarterback. You need to establish the run game. They've talked about getting him a career high in targets. You know, we heard an interview where he talked about that with the team. Not even an interview. It was a direct video where he was talking with the coach about that. And more importantly, more than anything, money talks. We are in a running back market where Dalvin Cook can't get paid, where Leonard Fournette's a free agent, Kareem Hunt's a free agent, where Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, no one's getting their money. The Panthers paid Miles Sanders a 4-year contract in a market where nobody is doing that, and they called it one of the steals of the offseason. So to me, I think Miles Sanders, like, when we talk about volume being king, this guy is going to get volume than he can possibly handle.
100%.
So yeah, I'm happy to have him there. Is this too aggressive? He's my RB16 right now. I don't know. Maybe it's too aggressive, but I'm all in on Miles Sanders this year.
No, it's good. I like Miles Sanders without a doubt coming into this year.
The only 2 players I have in this tier 4 left is James Conner, who I do love.
Yeah, who I have as well.
And then I'm going to get hate for this. This is a fluid list. I want that to be very clear. I have Breece Hall here right now. Happy to talk about it. Happy to move him up if you want to. But it is a little bit concerning to me that this team is so entertaining the idea of Dalvin Cook. And I know there's been mixed reports, but if Dalvin Cook lands there, that really, really hurts Breece Hall in fantasy this year. And we also I personally don't really know where he stands right now in his recovery process. Like, we haven't heard anything. That's the difference between him and Javonte. I don't know. Where do you stand?
Yeah, with Breece Hall, he is genuinely my must-avoid running back getting drafted right now. Okay. I'm avoiding. I mean, it kind of what you alluded to. They're all blasé about what's happening with Breece Hall. They can bring in Dalvin Cook. They can bring in a Kareem Hunt, a Leonard Fournette. I think even then, that is it telling me that Breece Hall is not going to be ready. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I think he's getting drafted way too high. I know people are saying, well, he's getting. I can't pass up on Breece Hall in the middle of the 3rd. I can. Because at that point in time, I can get a Amari Cooper, a Keenan Allen, a Calvin Ridley, whoever falls to you, right? Mark Andrews, hypothetically. I think that's a bit too late. But all those guys that are going around the ADP where Breece Hall is falling to, and we don't even know Breece Hall is going to play week 1. I know these are mock drafts. I know maybe that's probably why you're doing it. But still, I'm not. He is a must avoid in every single category for me. If Breece Hall falls middle of the 4th and I have my 2 running backs already, let's have a conversation. If he falls to the late 4th, let's have a conversation. But where he's getting drafted right now in our mock drafts, in our community, I don't like it. Number one, I don't see the return. I always point to the Saquon Barkley situation because I truly think this is kind of the pathway. And Javonte Williams' tune is a little bit different, kind of like what you alluded to. But with Breece Hall, he's on the PUP list. He's not practicing right now. The team is quote unquote backing him up if he is going to be ready. Hypothetically, he's off in week 3. It was kind of the same situation that Saquon Barkley was. Saquon Barkley was already off the pup when preseason started and was practicing. If Breece Hall is weeks behind technically Saquon, and Saquon finished RB30 that year, I think that is a huge concern, and you're drafting a dead asset right now that's not going to bring you the return, because right now, if I'm not mistaken, he's being drafted as a top 12 running back in mock drafts. That's wrong. I don't know. I think that's wrong. I would agree. Look, I don't have him here. I have him in my tier 3 out of respect, to be completely honest. But it's because of the fluidity that if he does get ready and he does start to trend in the right way, sure, let's have the conversation. But it's hard for me to draft him, to be completely honest.
And here's the thing, like, if the drumbeat was similar to Javonte, he would be worthy of a top 12 pick. If we knew that he was participating in contact drills, that he was going to play in the preseason, that running back depth chart was solid and solidified, then it would be much easier. But we don't know if Dalvin Cook's going to, like, Dalvin Cook absolutely ruins any sort of top 12, ADP for Breece Hall if he joins the team. I don't feel that way about Lenny or Zeke or Kareem, but man, it's just concerning that there hasn't been any sort of like solidified like, yes, he'll be ready week 1. What if he's not out there until week 4? Is he worthy of being drafted top 12? Maybe not. He would have to have an incredible end of the season. Yeah. Talent wise, if he was 100% healthy, he's a top 7 pick in 100% in drafts.
100%.
He's an easy first round pick. Mm-hmm. But again, rankings are fluid, so we'll have to change this if more information comes out. Mm-hmm. Okay, heading into tier 3. I really like the tier 3 of running backs. I really, really like the tier 3 of running backs. They all feel really solid. I like their usage that I'm projecting, and I like the offenses that they're going to be a part of. One being Joe Mixon. A lot of concern about him all offseason, but he is still going to be the number one unquestioned of one of the top 5 offenses in the NFL. He's going to get plenty of usage. Aaron Jones, the usage that he will see through the air in PPR formats.
Yep.
I actually would have Miles Sanders personally ahead of Aaron Jones. So he would be more towards the end of this tier. Najee Harris, who, again, when we talk, Najee Harris isn't sexy. But when we say volume is king, he's going to get volume.
Yeah.
And maybe that offense is going to take a next step, like I know you project this year. I have Jahmyr Gibbs, who in a PPR format looks like he could be an absolute league winner, a monster. Ramondre Stevenson, who if they do end up signing, let's say, Dalvin Cook, we definitely have to reassess. As of right now, if they enter the season with this depth chart, then Ramondre is worthy of being, a top 12 pick at the running back position. And Travis Etienne, who I've been very bullish on all offseason, regardless of what people keep saying about Tank Bigsby. I keep saying Etienne's going to be the guy. He's going to be a great fantasy pick. That offense is going to be ascending. He's going to be heavily involved in it. And he was so efficient, so good last year. And what was his rookie season, a lot of people aren't giving him enough credit for that. So I just talked through a lot of names. Talk me through anything that you want to, that you don't agree with or that you see differently.
Yeah, so the only difference that I have here is I have Joe ahead of Najee, and I have Travis Etienne technically right now behind Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay. And the reason for that being is because I saw this really interesting stat, and I kind of leaning on it often, which I like. The last players that were drafted in the top 12 in the NFL draft, their rookie year in the running back position has finished as top 11 running back. And especially in a PPR format with Jahmyr Gibbs, who is easily going to be going into so many opportunities in the air, I see that pathway for Jahmyr Gibbs coming into this season. So he is currently right now my RB11. I don't have it up, but he's my RB11. But that's kind of where it is for me right now with Travis Etienne, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that can be fluid. That can also change if something happens. But I feel really confident.
Do you have Ramondre behind both of those or ahead of both?
I have Ramondre ahead of both of them. Ramondre is my RB10. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I can definitely respect it. I would be curious, that data that you mentioned, how many of those teams had just signed a 3-year deal to a well-established running back with history of production like David Montgomery?
Sure.
Because any sort of notion, in my opinion, that Montgomery won't be heavily involved, I think is misguided. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just curious what that stat is. And I hear a lot of people saying, like, basically that Monty's going to be irrelevant. It's Jahmyr Gibbs. He'll get all the touches. I just think it's going to be much more even, but I still think Gibbs will be more valuable because of his work in the air. But I would say that Montgomery is a much bigger threat to fantasy success than Tank Bigsby. And they're both going to be on very good fantasy teams.
For sure.
So I would strongly have Etienne over Gibbs, but I can respect where you're coming from. Putting Jahmyr Gibbs over him. I can respect it.
Yeah. So
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, I like everyone here in this tier 3.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, and I think any of these guys, I think these are the guys that I would say I can see finishing as a top 10 running back. I guess Ramondre Stevenson is my number 10, so maybe that kind of evens up. But everyone else behind Ramondre Stevenson can easily finish this top 10, in my personal opinion.
They all have that upside.
Yeah, they all have that upside. So I'm really excited for all these guys, and their value, I think it's great as well.
Okay, for the sake of time, because we are now heading into 37 minutes or so, excuse me, let me talk about my tier 2 and then anything you disagree on.
Sure.
Jonathan Taylor's at the end of it. I really don't know what to do with him right now.
Agreed.
And the same can be said with Josh Jacobs. These are the ultimate high-risk, high-reward picks in your fantasy drafts right now. Like, there is not at the running back position, maybe even more than Breece Hall, because there's a realistic chance that maybe these guys sit out. We don't think that's going to happen. Look what happened to Le'Veon Bell, but they seem pretty set on getting what they're worth. I don't think it's going to happen. So big risk, big rewards. Both guys who have top 5 ceilings at the position. I also have Tony Pollard here, who I feel more comfortable with in those two names. Derrick Henry, who now that they've signed D-Hop, I've said before that, man, their offense needs to change at some time. Well, you sign D-Hop, you tell me that your offense is going to be quite similar. You still think you can win when you add DeAndre Hopkins. Nick Chubb I have here. Then I have Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson at the top. Obviously, all of these guys are going to be players you need to draft in the first 2 rounds, some of them in round 1, and they should be pillars of your team. That's why Jacobs and Taylor are so concerning as draft picks, because is it worth the risk? I'll tell you this, if you hit, you have a great chance to win your leagues. But if you miss, I would say you have virtually no chance.
Right.
That's what's so concerning.
Right.
Those first 2-3 rounds of your fantasy drafts, you need to be hitting on consistent production. And what if these guys aren't playing? What if they do decide to take a stand for the running back position once and for all? So that's what my tier 2 looks like. I'm curious what you agree with, you disagree with, you like, you dislike.
So, look, with Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor, once we hear about if they're going to return, be with the team, we'll have a conversation. I already have Jonathan Taylor as my RB9 even before the whole JT standpoint and the whole standoff with Jim Irsay. I think Anthony Richardson is going to take a lot of opportunity away from JT. I brought out a video on the channel as well regarding that. Now, when it comes down to my order here, the order is a little bit different. So I think what's easiest, I would say, is that, of course, in tier 1, we have Christian McCaffrey and then Austin Eckler. Right? Now, the way I originally have my tiers, it's just set up a little bit differently. I have my top 6 guys who I believe can finish as the RB1, which is CMC, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, and Bijan Robinson. All those guys.
Is that 6 or is that 7?
Maybe that's 7. 2, 4.
That's 6. My 6. Bad. Right.
All those guys, I truly see them as finishing as a top. I see all those guys finishing as RB1. Now that's just the way I constructed it because that's how I envision it. I'm happy to have the way you have it, but my order, if you guys want to know my rankings, is CMC, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, and then Bijan Robinson. That's how I have it. I see Bijan Robinson. I get it. Top 8 pick in the NFL draft. Best running back since Saquon Barkley. I just feel more comfortable if I'm really wanting to win. I feel like I can win with the first 5 guys. I'm not saying I can't win with Bijan. I'm saying I just know exactly what I'm going to get, and I know, I'm drafting Bijan at his absolute ceiling if we're taking it as RB3, RB4. That's how I'm envisioning it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe okay. I'm happy to be wrong, but that's how it is for me.
And look, I'm much more comfortable with Derrick Henry once they sign D-Hop, but I mean, you talk about what you're going to get. Not many running backs have finished RB1. In fact, I would go out on a limb and say no running backs have ever finished RB1 at Derrick Henry's age. I'm just going to put that out there. So the chances that he falls off versus Bijan in his first year, I would say I think Bijan is a much better bet. That's just my personal opinion. Right. But I hear you. People can see that, they can see your rankings, and maybe they can let us know what they think in the comments below. But yeah, I definitely have grown on Derrick Henry, but I still think McCaffrey and Eckler are in a tier of their own. And I would still take the likes of Saquon and Bijan over a Derrick Henry, who, I like. I think he is just built different. I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. Yeah. But man, there's not a lot of history of running backs that old not dealing with any injuries, or which we've seen in the last couple of years for him. So yeah, I mean, I hear you. We're quite similar, just a little bit of a different structure. And to me, Saquon Barkley is one of the easiest picks as well in like the back end of the first round. If you can start Saquon Barkley, Bijan Robinson in a age where everyone's going heavy wide receivers, that could be a huge, huge X factor for you in your fantasy leagues this year.
Definitely could.
But that is it for today. Do us a favor, drop a like. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy, even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.